Hi everyone, in this video I'll tell you how to use GitHub, how to set up your account, and how to set up your first basic repository. So let's get started. As I showed you in the lecture, the links that you have to use are the following. You first need to go on gitsem.com/downloads. You'll get the link in the description. So based on your operating system, you have to pick one of these. Then you just install it based on your OS, and this is pretty much just the driver that allows you to then interact with GitHub. After which you have to go on desktop.github.com. And then you have this you have the software for both Windows and Mac. After you download it, also of course make sure you have a GitHub account already set up, and then first time after installing the desktop, when you open GitHub, you'll be prompted to log in with your GitHub account. So after you're done with all of that, now you want to set your first repository. For that, you go on the GitHub webpage, you click new repository right here, then you give it a name, test repo, for example. You would want to make a repository for each project or each group of projects, depending on how you want to show it. So next, you can define a description, which you can change later. And then the next thing is to decide whether your repository is public or private. So for the lectures, you want it public, I guess, because you want to also show other people the kind of stuff you work on. And also I have to have access to it easily. You can pick private repository when you want to work on a new secret project, or you want to protect your intellectual property. The next thing here, we're just going to pick this, add a README file, you'll see why. And now we're going to create the repository. So as you can see, this is how a GitHub repository looks like pretty much. We're not going to go into all the details about it. We're just going to learn how to upload code, update it, and track changes in a very basic way. So as you can see here, we just have one single file, the readme.md. This file contains the information about your repository, so what you want to tell to people about your what you have here and what you've been working on, or how to run your code and so on. Now we want to actually interact with this repository in our computer. So for that, we're going to click here, and you have an option here which says open with GitHub desktop. So yeah, you might be prompted to do this. You do open, and then here in your desktop application, you'll see that you have the URL of your repository, and then there is a local path. So I usually put things in a separate folder. You can also put it in documents, but I think by default everything goes in a folder called GitHub or something like that. So you select that folder. And then you click clone. Okay, so now what we have here, so you can do the following things. You can either open this folder in Explorer, so we see just one file as we've seen here. You can either open it in Visual Studio Code. And then this is your project right here. So now we're going to try to upload a new file. Let's make an index.html. Now let's try to add some code into this file. So let's write stuff like this. Okay, we're going to type in a list just because it will be easier to see how we can track changes. Cat dog. Okay, so now inside our folder, now we have a file index.html, which is pretty much just a list of two words. And now this code is not yet on GitHub. No one can see it yet. It's simply just on your PC. But if we open again our GitHub desktop application, we see all of our code in green. So as you will see later, all the code that is new will appear here in green. Here you'll have a list of files which has been changed. You can have multiple files, and you'll see all the list of it right here. And here you'll see what has been added, pretty much. So now let's say you want to push this code to GitHub. You want other people to see it, or you want your colleague who you're working with to see this code as well. The first operation that you have to do, it's called a commit. So a commit is a series of changes to your files or to your code, which has a title and description, right? So here in the title, we're going to describe what has been done here in just a few words. So we can say something like created initial file. And in the description, you can go a bit more in details, something like added a list of 2 animals, blah blah blah. Now after this you click commit, and still the code is not yet on GitHub, because now the next operation that I have to do, it's called the push. So yeah, usually it appears here for you as the next thing you want to do. So let's do push. So you see here that your files are being uploaded. So now, yeah, both the repository on your computer and the one on GitHub are both up to date. If we're going to refresh this page, we're going to see that, yeah, we have an index.html. We have some stuff here. So normally, every time you want to work on your GitHub repository, let's say from a different computer, from a different, yeah, or maybe your colleague wants to also work on that code, the very first thing you want to do is to do a fetch right here. And sometimes it will also tell you to do a pull. So fetch means that you want to read what kind of files have been changed on the repository online, and pull means that you want to download those changes. Later we're going to learn how to work with branches and how to have several versions of your code. For now we're just going to focus on working with one branch. So what you have to learn is that when you start working on your code, you do a fetch and a pull, and when you want to send your changes back online, you do commit and push. Now let's try to do a small change to our list. We're going to add a new element, and we're going to also delete something, so you get an idea of how this works. So as you can see here in this interface, we can see which elements have been added or deleted. So yeah, a red code has been deleted, the green one is what has been added. Yeah, and just like last time, you write a description, or modified one of the list elements. Yeah, description is optional actually as well. We're going to do a commit and a push. The next thing that you probably want to do for later, or you want to also install a Visual Studio Code extension. So if you write git length, so this component, if you install it, you're going to have this interface in your computer. So coming back to this, and what we see here is that you also have to install another component called git graph. So you have to install both of these. And here, when you'll go to the submenu source control, you have the small element here, view git graph. And what you see here, this would pretty much be a list of commits, a list of code changes that happened, and every time you click on one of them, you see well, who was the author, because you're not going to always be the only person working, and then yeah, you also see what files have been changed and so on. Additionally, when next to every line, you sometimes, if you hold your mouse, you're going to see, yeah, when was this line added by whom, and yeah, and all the history of it. So good luck with setting up your own repository. Looking forward to see your project.